Good morning. Happy President's Day wherever you are. Hopefully, you're at home, or maybe you're vacationing and skiing somewhere and having a great time, taking advantage of some of the cold weather and what it generates and on the ski slopes. But nevertheless, stay safe. Right? It can sometimes those things can be dangerous, as we've learned with the avalanches that have occurred out west. People into the more dangerous parts of the backcountry for skiing. Anyway, so in the news, so we start off with Happy President's Day, as I said, the federal holiday where we are celebrating, Abraham Lincoln and George Washington's birthday. I remember as a child that those were two distinct dates, though I think I think we probably only got Washington's birthday off for school, but it's been combined as one. And that's okay, I guess. It's been that way for a long time now. You just kind of go along with it. But the question always does remain is that how long does that stay on the calendar before someone in the cancel culture decides that George Washington and Abraham Lincoln are not deserving of this at all, and that they are nothing but dead white males, and they need to be, after all, their names are being eliminated from a lot of schools around the country, along with Thomas Jefferson and others, part of our founding father group as well. So, this President's Day may not be President's Day, forever, right? Anyway, in the news, so we had last week on Saturday, we thought the Trump impeachment trial was going to end, and then the Democrats tried to throw a curveball with witnesses, and then there was some negotiation, and then there were no witnesses, and then they finally took a vote, and it came out to a 57-43 vote to convict President Trump, which means that it failed. It needed 67. So the Democrats picked up 7 votes overall. Not overly surprising. I mean, we'd already had 6 that had gone and voted on the constitutionality, I think it was. So, besides the usual suspects of Collins, Murkowski, and Romney, we also had adding in there to that initial vote where was, Toomey and Cassidy as well. So we had those guys in there. But they also picked up Burr from North Carolina along the way. Now, Toomey and Burr are not planning on running for re-election, so that's nothing there. I mean, Ben Sass, he's been kind of an anti-Trump from the get-go, so that's not a surprise. We know that Romney basically has replaced McCain in that little trio of swing Republicans for a lot of these types of votes. So, those tend to be the 3 people: Romney, Murkowski, and Collins. You can pretty much count on something like this that they'll probably vote with the Democrats, on this kind of measure. Now, Nancy Pelosi was really, really ticked off about this vote. She even interrupted a House Democrat press conference to barge in and express her disgust for the Republicans in the Senate not voting to convict President Trump. Problem was, in my mind, is that they just really, there was a lot of emotion, a lot of things going on there, but there were no definitive facts beyond the shadow of a doubt, beyond reasonable doubt, that President Trump was responsible for any of these actions that they were accusing of inciting the riots. There is, evidence, or at least, proof apparently that, a lot of these people that were out there doing it, they did it and they had planned to do something well before President Trump even spoke of this, had his rally on January 6th, right? So it's not like anything that President Trump did was really egging them on. President Trump always he had tendency to kind of walk those fine lines and just kind of maybe, tip over the edge a little bit without getting to an illegal point or whatever, something where an area probably shouldn't have been. But, there were people there who were planning on doing this long before President Trump ever even spoke to the group. I think the mistake that President Trump made is that he should have been very forceful and told them to stand down and call them off. That would have been more appropriate in that sense. But, he didn't do it, so it is what it is in that sense. But he is not responsible for the actions of those people who went and rioted on Capitol Hill in any way, shape, or form. Now, Lindsey Graham has come out and said, look, if the Republicans take over the House in 2022, why can't we go after Kamala Harris and impeach her too? I mean, this, the Democrats have opened up a huge can of worms with this impeachment process because they've taken it now to the political extreme. They've done it twice in 2 years. They failed twice to accomplish the overarching goal, which was to convict President Trump, which is what the end result you want to be. But I think they did accomplish one thing in the end. It's just that, with all the video footage, with all the emotion, that was laid out by the House impeachment managers, I think they have effectively, killed President Trump's political career, any future political career that he would have wanted. 2024, I just don't see it happening. He can still be a kingmaker and a pawnbroker, and things like that along the way. I think he still carries influence that he can help campaigns in some areas of the country. But I don't think that there are now, after all of this, that there are going to be enough people that would vote for President Trump for a third time for president to the point that he could actually win. So I think that is done. They don't even have to take. They don't have. There's no necessity for an official vote by Congress to ban him from holding public office like that again. I don't think he's going to go there. He's been, after having been deplatformed off of Twitter and Facebook, he's been pretty darn quiet anyway. And so, he issued one statement after the fact. I mean, in a sense, you can take a victory lap. But, you see the liberal media, you see Democrats talking about Republicans who didn't vote to convict Trump as being seditious. Are you kidding me? I mean, really? That's where we're going now with this? The Senate used to be this, this august body. I mean, they were the keepers, the real lawmakers, the people, that they were the deliberative body as such. But there is so much animus now being thrown around that it's now devolving as well into what the House is, which is a complete mess. And it's not looking any better at this stage of the game either for either party with this, right? So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. But now maybe we can, Congress can actually get to the business at hand after having wasted, the last, week and a half, 2 weeks, of this, dealing with all these issues. So, it's done, it's gone. I mean, Democrats will rail about it. They're going to be trying to fundraise off of it, I'm sure, and everything like that. Republicans can now maybe move forward and then deal with 2022 and 2024 the way they wanted to do so from the beginning. One side note here too is that Joe Biden wants to have these ethical great people working for him, and there's been this controversy with his press aide TJ Ducklow, who had a relationship with a reporter from Axios that was only recently revealed, which disturbed a lot of people, not just on the right, on the left too. That it's like because this the situation is that how does somebody working for the Biden campaign have a relationship that's being held with the media, someone from the media, and no one knew about it? But it escalated because Ducklow he was dealing with another reporter, and he basically threatened bodily harm to this reporter should she report any more about this whole issue. Apparently, he has now resigned. So, I mean, that's the nice way out. I mean, it would have been stronger if Biden would have just fired him from the get-go when he heard about this, but he let him gracefully exit as such, if you want to call that a graceful exit. Remember the Lincoln Project, that anti-Trump PAC that was formed by Kellyanne Conway's husband and some other disgruntled Republicans, Rick Wilson, Steve Schmidt, John Weaver. Weaver got into trouble for sexting issues with minors. So, he's been disgraced and out. Conway is not, he had already resigned from the group before last year, but he was shocked and dismayed about the Weaver revelations. But now Schmidt has resigned, Wilson. I mean, the whole thing is falling apart. There's now reports that it was a toxic workplace, the sexist culture. Oh, my goodness. Imagine that. The very same group that goes after President Trump for being misogynistic and everything else and sexist is having their own problems of sexism. How does that, is that karma? Does something just come back to bite them in the what? Well, anyway, maybe that is just something that needed to be done. It needed to be said, right? So the Lincoln Project Not sure exactly what their goal was going forward once Trump was out of office, because that's their main thing was to try to get Trump out of office, right? So they achieved that in that sense, along with the liberal media and a lot of other people. Uh, so, whether or not they had a future going forward would have been questionable to begin with. But after all these revelations, you begin to wonder whether or not they will not just close up shop and try to go away before any more unwanted attention comes upon any member of their staff. It's not looking pretty for the Lincoln Project, and I'm not exactly shedding a tear. School reopenings, there's some progress on that front. Some schools are finally striking deals to reopen with the teachers unions. Teachers unions have been very stubborn about this, despite the fact that the CDC says that not all teachers need to be vaccinated. They've already seen the transmission rates for COVID-19 at extremely low levels, below the community levels of infections. But the teachers unions have been pushing back on this, leading to questions as to whether or not they really wanted to work, and were they really interested in the students' best benefit. I mean, I have seen so many parents on Facebook, particularly, complaining about their children and the loss of learning. That despite the fact that there is Zoom learning is not in-person learning. It is not also in-person socialization and other things that the kids need. So I feel that this is something that needs to take place. And that if you're a teacher who doesn't want to teach in class, you either need to go and move to another state or find another state that's willing to take you, so where you're going to do the online learning only, or you need to find a new job. Because the students, we cannot as a country afford to have our children with this education program that does not give them what they need to grow and excel in this world. No one could have predicted this pandemic, but now that we're a year into it, and we are now nearing really the 1 year point where schools began to shut down, we're now seeing a 1 year loss of learning in a lot of places. Other places have reopened. Obviously they suffered, but if they got back to 2 or 3 a day in class, did the hybrid model, it's still better than being at home and trying to do that 5 days a week. It's difficult. I mean, anybody who's been on a Zoom call for any length of time, it's just hard, right? I mean, it's just hard to maintain your level of concentration in those types of settings. And when you're talking about kids that are anywhere from the age of, say, 7, especially 7 to, say, 10 or 11. I mean, talk about distractions and how the, lack of concentration in a computer setting like that, classroom learning is not video games. I mean, video games may have those kids riveted, but that's not what they're getting in a classroom situation, nor should they be getting a video game situation going on there. So, hopefully, we'll see, as this time progresses. Now, unfortunately, we're already here in mid-February. Schools normally end in early to mid-June. So we're talking less than 4 months of in-person learning of any kind. A lot of schools are already, their plan is not to really gear up for anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. So that leaves them maybe with 3 months of some kind of in-person hybrid learning model, from the online only model. Students have lost a lot. They're not going to, it's going to be a tough road to hoe going forward there. But, we do have vaccinations rolling out, albeit slower than, I think a lot of us want, but, supply, demand, and just state health officials trying to cope with how to best distribute it based on CDC guidelines. I've checked locally, just to see, and even with the CVSs in the area that have now got the vaccine, but they're fully booked. So I expect that, this is going to be another 4 weeks or so before I see some clearance here to be able to maybe actually get an appointment at a decent time and get my vaccination or my wife's vaccination, unless we get extremely lucky that we're happen to be someplace that's actually got it left over and they've got to use it before it expires. So something like that. I mean, I think that's what's happening with a lot of people, is that sometimes they're just there in the right place at the right time for these types of things. And then there's a couple last things here. President Biden wants to tighten up gun laws. So we knew it was coming, and the word is out now. So watch out for that. That is definitely there coming. So that may actually cause them yet another run on gun sales and ammunition sales and whatnot. I would not be surprised. We have seen this before with just the threat of Hillary Clinton getting elected. But Joe Biden as a Democrat is a fact, and I think he's already showing himself to be far more liberal than Barack Obama was. He's got a lot of Obama people, but he's lurched left to satisfy the progressive wing of the Democrat Party. And so we're seeing that. And then Gina Carano, who was fired from The Mandalorian last week, big uproar. It's too bad. Mandalorian is a great program. I love it. My wife loves it. I'm not sure she's going to watch it in the future without Gina, but I think she will. I still plan to do it, but she has signed on to make some kind of movie that with the Daily Wire by Ben Shapiro. So that'll be interesting. I think she made a mistake by actually using a Nazi Holocaust reference, but her statement was actually not incorrect and not offensive on the face of it. But by doing so, that's all you needed to do if you're conservatives. You just mention those things, you're done. If you are liberal and you mention those things, you can find a way to excuse yourself out of that and keep your job, whatever that job may be. So there is a double standard in Hollywood, as there is in a lot of other places for conservative versus liberals. So that, that is that's part of the life, the world that we live in, unfortunately. All right, everyone, please stay safe, stay well, enjoy your day today. Have a good day today, wherever you are. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. God bless America, and I will see you back on Wednesday with Brian.